All right. I am here with Henry Kaminski, and we are excited because this gentleman is an absolute rock star when it comes to the world of branding and social media. We are just thrilled that he's going to be on the show here and kind of give us some guidance on best practices and how we can grow audiences. And Henry, thank you and welcome to the show.
Jim, thanks for having me. So excited to be here.
Yeah, man. Super excited. I was reading your bio before and listening to your bio before. You have an incredible bio. And just share with the audience, just so real quickly, they can kind of get to know you a little bit.
Yeah, real quick. So 14 years ago, I started as a freelance graphic designer. I was working corporate for 8 years and wasn't really tickling my fancy anymore. And I took the entrepreneurial leap back when I was 26 or 7, and started a little side. It started as a side hustle, but turned into the first year I made $250,000 just as a freelance designer. So I knew that I had some sort of skill. I had some sort of drive and motivation to take this to the next level. And so built this little practice into a multi-million-dollar boutique branding agency. And we serve small businesses. You got to be generating at least, 250,000 in revenue. If you're a subject matter expert of any kind, so whether you're a speaker or a coach or an author, and have a business that kind of revolves around your personal brand, that's who we really thrive with the most, and help serve at the highest level. And we help them from messaging to brand strategy to design identity to building out sales and marketing funnels to help you generate leads, like you mentioned before, and turn those leads into paying clients. And so over the past 14 years, there's been a lot of ups and downs, just like any other business. And but all lessons, never failures, only lessons. And so, I'm here to really help entrepreneurs find the clarity and confidence, not only inside themselves, but inside of their business to help them get to that next level.
I love it. So we serve a realtor audience, obviously. And so realtors are a unique beast in this industry because every realtor is in and of themselves a brand, or they want to become a brand at the very least. And so I'm sure you serve some realtors out there in the marketplace.
Absolutely. Yeah. Quite a few of them here in New Jersey as well. And it's a very competitive market, isn't it?
It is. It is. I mean, we've got 2 million realtors right now. There's 1 million listings. So everybody's competing to get these listings and to gain what market share they can. So let's talk a little bit about branding in the perspective of a realtor. I mean, what are some basic principles that we should be looking at? Like what, from your perspective?
Well, you have to look at your point of differentiation, right?
Got it.
And what is the biggest difference between hiring or bringing you on as an agent versus the next agent, right? And this is so simple to understand, yet we make it so complex. And our big differentiation is ourselves.
Sure.
It's ourselves. Like there's thousands of people that do what I do. And if you were to ask me, Jim, well, what makes you different than everybody else here, Henry? We've interviewed 5 firms. I'd say me.
Great answer.
1 out of 7 billion people, right? And me.
Yeah.
I'm going to bring a certain energy, expertise, and perspective that no one in this planet can bring. And lean into that. So if you're a realtor, you're going to have a certain high level skill. And you need to figure that out, right? You need to, and this is where we help our clients in the brand strategy process really find their X factor. And then we leverage that X factor to attract the right clients, right? So leaning into that personal brand and leaning into that uniqueness of who you are. Because Jim, there's 1,000 realtors in my town, right? That I need to choose from which makes it really, really hard. So how are you going to make yourself the obvious choice for me? Because I don't have the time to interview 1,000 realtors. I don't. So what are you doing as the realtor to stand out in the crowd? How are you being the obvious choice? So what I like to say is social media could be your best friend or your worst nightmare. And if you just looked at your social media as a publishing platform instead of a consumption platform. So when you're leveraging social media, I would leverage social media as a production, not a consumption. Okay.
Explain that a little bit.
Okay. Yeah. So if you're consuming social media, in my opinion, you're wasting a bunch of time.
You're just
scrolling the endless scroll, right?
Yeah.
If you're producing on social media, now you are contributing and now you are starting to position yourself as more of a subject matter expert and now becoming a resource guide.
Love it.
For the people that you want to serve. So if I was a realtor, the first thing that I would be doing is understanding what the biggest pain points are. And as a realtor, you guys know what the big pain points are in selling and buying a home, making sure that it's staged properly, making sure that it's listed properly. We sold our house 6 years ago in a week because our agent knew how to price it.
Right.
So that was fantastic for us as sellers, right? To make that happen, right? So we picked a really good realtor. She was a friend of the family and she's been, she's 25 years experience. So like she knew what she was doing. So it was like, you tell us what to do, we'll make it done and let's get this thing sold. In a week, it was gone.
Right.
So finding those questions, right? Finding those issues and then just creating content to speak to it. So if you go to my social media accounts, you'll see questions that I'm constantly asked. And all I'm doing on my social media is answering them.
I love it.
Right. And then there's objections, right? There's going to be tons of objections out there. Well, handle them in your social media content. So there's your content strategy right there, Jim.
I love it. I was talking to somebody recently about the Dave Ramsey effect. Everybody knows who Dave Ramsey is in our industry. And he earned $40 million in referrals last year from people going to his brand and asking for a referral to a realtor in their market. And the question is, why aren't we getting that business? Why are they going to Dave Ramsey as opposed to us? And I think it boils down to exactly what you're saying. I mean, Dave has established a brand of authority and trust. And people trust him, right? And that's what we need to do. We need to be visible in our market, establishing authority and trust, right?
Exactly. And how do you do that? Well, there's two ways you can look at social media. You could look at it as a monologue or a dialogue. And I've been on social media for a long time, right?
Yeah.
The biggest uptick in sales and connection and brand awareness was when I stopped speaking at my audience and started to talk with them.
I love it.
So I do a live stream 3 times a week on Instagram. Instagram is my love because it shows me the most love. I have over 150,000 people following me there.
Wow.
And so I've generated a ton of business from it. So that seems to be the platform that I always revert back to. Now I have a YouTube channel and a podcast and all of that stuff, but Instagram is this is my first love. And the reason why is when I go live and do a live stream, I am interacting with my audience. I am asking them questions. They are asking me questions. I'm bringing them up into the live stream so they can actually have direct one-on-one interaction with me. And here's what I'm doing behind the scenes. All those questions I'm being asked, I'm writing them down. Because now I could go back and say, wow, I have 3 weeks worth of content here that I got to answer.
Right.
So, and what am I doing also? I'm building that person-to-person rapport. I'm humanizing my brand. Dave Ramsey did a great job humanizing his brand. And that's why he's so damn successful.
Right. So let me ask you, if you go kind of back in time, because you have 150,000 followers now, but we all start at zero and then we build, right? So when you started doing your live streams, I think one fear that people might have is I'm speaking to an empty room, right?
Yeah.
And how'd you get over that? I mean, how'd that happen for you?
Yeah. So collaboration. There's a realtor that I'm friends with in town, and I tell her she has access to the family that runs Cambridge Paving.
Wow.
You know who Cambridge is, right?
Yeah.
And I said, you have such an advantage here because you know this family. Like you went to high school with the granddaughter, like, or uncle, the niece or whatever. Right? I said, you should have her on your live stream. And talk, like, you know what this is? This is the one of the heirs to the Cambridge Paving and franchise, right? Or whatever, right? And we're going to talk about how to make your patio, or your home presentable,
right?
In so you could sell it faster, or you could get top dollar for it. Now, not everybody has access to the Cambridge Paving empire, right? So, all right, there may be a popular contractor in town, a popular, or somebody that does mortgages.
Yeah, lender.
Right?
Yeah.
And you do a live stream together. Now, you might not get a large audience at first because you don't have a large audience. Give yourself some credit. You actually had the courage to go live. So let's give a round of applause right there first, right?
Right.
But when you have that, so don't make it about you.
Yeah.
That's the first thing that you have to think about, because that's what stops a lot of my coaching clients from going live and getting in front of video, because they get so afraid of, having an audience of none.
Right.
Stop making it about you. Make it about your audience. So when you're looking down the barrel of that camera on your phone or, on your laptop, you're looking, just fantasize with me a second here. Down that barrel of that camera is a bunch of people that need your help.
Right. Yeah. Somebody desperately needs your help.
Somebody desperate that really, maybe they're over there, they really need to sell their house fast because X.
Yeah.
Right. When you take you out of the equation and make it about your audience, now there's like, well, at least for me, Jim, I get empowered. I get motivated because I want to help people.
Yeah.
That's what I was put on this earth to do. I almost died when I was 2 years old. And prior to that, it took my parents 16 years to have me.
Wow.
Because of issues with fertility. So talk about being on this planet on borrowed time. Like, I'm here to serve and I'm here to help. I just happen to do it through the branding and design and communication vehicle. Right. So when I see that people are struggling with getting out in front of an audience, at first, it's taking yourself out of the equation and making it about the people that you want to serve. Because when people are going to feel that, they're going to know that, and then they're going to respond to it.
Let me ask you this because on Instagram, I know a lot of realtors see a lot of other realtors that are trying to be Instagram influencers, you might call it, and every picture is perfect. You can tell they've got a professional photographer following them around, or they're doing a photo shoot a week to try to capture these images. What's your thoughts on all that?
So there's a time and a place for it. There's certain things that you want to look elegant. There's certain things that require more of a raw and real feel.
Yeah.
I got to tell you, Instagram is a great platform to just showcase that raw and real behind the scenes feel through your Instagram stories. Maybe you're showing a house, or you're doing an open house, or you're prepping a home, right?
Yeah.
Looking out your phone, going into your Instagram stories and showing people what you're doing. It's so powerful. Right. And then your competitors that are realtors are going to be looking at you going, oh, damn, look at what they're doing.
Live again.
That was so good. Right. So here's something that you got to pay attention to. Remember that you are the expert here. The buyer and seller is not. That's why they're hiring you.
Right.
So what you may find elementary in a piece of content or amateur, I don't know anything about staging a home, so it's new to me.
Right.
So I am encouraging you, realtor, to do more of that, because the more you do that, the more you're educating me, and that makes me a more confident buyer. And then when you're the best client is an educated client.
Sure.
So the more you educate them, the more confident they're going to become in hiring you. So it's huge. So to your question, I don't think if you're just starting out, I actually don't recommend you try to get fancy with it.
Right.
Just keep it real, raw, authentic, transparent. People love that, and they're gonna gravitate to that, and you're gonna start to stand out to them because they're gonna be looking forward to your next live stream or story or post. So keep it real with them, and they're gonna keep it real with you.
How do you move people? I mean, so you collect an audience, you're building an audience, you're building some authority and trust, you're very visible. How do you move people, offline into a real engaged relationship?
That is a great question. So you really need to understand your back end process and funnel, right? That's where we could talk about this. So what is a funnel? A funnel is just a series of steps. It could be a series of videos. It could be a series of emails. It could be a series of landing pages. It could be just a series of anything that's going to guide a prospect from introduction to pulling out a credit card or signing an agreement that you are going to be their exclusive listing agent or so on, right?
Sure.
So you need to work backwards. So you need to look at it and say, okay, what is the end result that I want here? I want to be their agent. Okay, so what steps do I have to take them through for that to happen? So, okay, say I'm doing all of this effort on social media and they reach out and they say, okay, what's the next step, Jim? How do we carry this conversation on? You need to know that.
Right.
Many times, Jim, people are generating all of this attention, and then when they get it, they don't know what to do with it. I'll give you a quick example. I was working with a client in the UK, and they have a really successful podcast. And they said, Henry, we're getting inquiries out the wazoo, but we don't know where to take them. So we need a funnel.
Yeah.
So I said, okay, you definitely need a funnel, but who are we really serving here? Because you have a pretty interesting audience. You have a medium to somewhat decent size business owner, entrepreneur that's maybe at $500,000 or $750K, and he wants to scale to $1 million to an exit.
Yeah.
Then you also have the private equity guys listening to you and gals listening to you. Like, they have their hedge funds or right? That's two very different audience members.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
So you need to come up with two funnels, because you can't have one funnel to bring in two of those because they're so unique, right?
Yeah.
So we've designed two different offers, two separate funnels, and I help them with their content strategy. So when they put out a podcast, that podcast was directed to client A, and they got served funnel A. And then another episode would be for client B, and they got funneled to funnel B.
Got it.
And then it was crazy. So we launched that, and 3 weeks after they launched, they got their first $96,000 client.
Wow.
It was like, boom. And that's what happens when you think with the end in mind. So we worked backwards and flushed out the flow. And what we found was a qualification funnel is the best way to save your prospects time and to save your time.
Sure.
So what I do, so you could get more aggressive with this as you get more experienced and more confident. So I started out in the beginning where I just sent people to a calendar link and said, book a call with me.
Sure.
Then I noticed that I had zero time for anything because my calendar was completely booked out.
Right.
And then they weren't showing. Now talk to me in a beautiful summer Friday afternoon when I have 3 bookings, 2, 3, and 4, and they all don't show up. Ask me how happy I am.
Brutal. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So I got savvy. I said, okay, now I'm going to start charging for these. I'm going to charge $100. Now, I'm not saying a realtor could do this.
Sure.
You might have to think this through a little bit, but I started charging for it. And what I found was the less I charged, the less bookings I got. The more I charged, the more bookings I got. So over the course of 24 months, that $100 consult call turned into a $500 brand assessment. So I productized that front end.
Yeah.
And so now to get on the phone with me for 45 minutes, it's a $500 investment.
Wow.
You're going to walk out of there with a real clear idea on what it is that you're going to need to do. I can help you with it, or I'm going to direct you to somebody else that's going to help you do it. But at least that investment is going to get you the clarity and focus right now. So for you, Jim, let's put you in this situation. You could say, I'd love to have a sit down with you and discuss how I can help you sell or buy a home. But here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to send you over a little questionnaire. And you could do this on all these different softwares. Like there's free ones and right.
Google Forms, Jot Forms. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. And I'm going to ask. So I'm making believe I'm Jim. Right. I'm going to ask a bunch of pointed questions.
Right.
1 to focus on personality. And 2 to focus on like if they're serious or not.
Right.
Right. So let's just say it's 8 questions. I don't know what those 8 questions would be, but I want to get a sense of who this person is personally and how serious they are.
Yeah.
And then I send them that. I get the response. Now I know. Is this person going to be a waste of my time, or is this a hot lead?
Right.
Now it takes me 2 seconds to look at that form, the responses, right? Now I can make a determination based on who I want to serve, whether or not we take it to the next step.
Then you could send them the Calendly link if you decided to.
Then you send them the Calendly link. Right. So it's an extra step, but that step, Jim, is going to save you so much aggravation and time.
I love it. It's a qualification step, which we should all be doing.
All should be qualifying our clients as much as they're trying to qualify us.
Right. I love it.
Right? Let's not give all of our power away here.
I was going to say there's power in saying no, and there's power in, valuing your time and having like some non-negotiables and, some boundaries where you say, hey, I'm not willing to do this, that, or the other. And your time is your most valuable asset. So I love it. I think you're giving great advice here. And
Jim, you're now getting your time back.
Yeah.
And you're working with clients that you really want to work with.
Right. Right.
And that's the beautiful thing. When you get a phone call at 7:00 at night on a Friday from a client, you want to be excited to pick up that phone. Yeah. Not like, oh my God, here we go again. Ignore, send a voicemail. You don't want that. You don't want that. So, it took me 14 years to figure all this out, Jim. So I right. But at the same time, like I learned my lessons and those lessons were so valuable. Now I could teach them on podcasts like yours. Right.
So with, Instagram being your preference of choice in terms of platform, are you on the other? I mean, I know you have a YouTube channel. You're on Facebook, I'm sure. Yeah. Are you doing TikTok? Are you doing anything else out there?
So my biggest platforms are YouTube. Instagram and my podcast. Right. But I also I do it a little 2-for-1 here when I record a podcast. When I record a podcast, I record it with video, and I have a streaming software where I could live stream it. And then once I could live stream it on multiple platforms. So YouTube, Twitter, interesting enough, I could stream live on Twitter. And then I have a Facebook group, and I have a Facebook fan page, and I have a Facebook personal page. So I stream live across all those platforms at the same time. And then I take the recording, I give it to my podcast team, and they take the audio and put it on 48 different podcast platforms, like Audible and Pandora we're on now, and obviously Spotify and iTunes and iHeartRadio and those types, right? So that's where I could kill 2 birds with 1 stone, where now I'm live streaming on all those other platforms. And then, I think 3 weeks that's the time frame, it becomes a podcast episode. So
what do you think about a podcast for a realtor? I'm very curious about this. Do you think that that's another good strategy, or is it not a good strategy?
Depends on your audience, right? It depends on your audience. So I know that my audience is high-level business owner, has more money than time.
Yeah.
And they're always looking to allocate their resources and do more with their time. So podcasting is perfect because they could be in the gym, they could be on their walk, they could be in the office and having it playing in the background. So it's perfect for me.
Sure.
You really need to find the platform that your audience is going to really resonate with you on the most. And I started with Facebook, Jim. I started on Facebook, and then I realized when I saw Instagram picking up momentum and I saw the follower growth there, I said, I got to spend all my attention there. The worst thing you could do, though, I'll tell you this, is try to be on all platforms at the same time.
I hear that a lot. Yeah. Yeah.
One or two at most.
Yeah. Pick your platform, right?
Yeah. One or two at most. And because look at it as like a circle of focus. If you try to be good on 5 different channels,
it's not going to work.
It's not, right? Yeah. Be fantastic on 2 channels. Like I love video and I love to talk.
Yeah.
So podcast and YouTube are like perfect for me. Right. And so that's why I do a lot of that stuff. And you want to find your greatness and bring it, because and bring it on the right platform, right? So if you're good at video, then obviously you're going to shine on video. If you don't like video, then podcast may be a good thing.
Yeah.
For you, because nobody has to see you.
There's a stat out there that says, I think it's 92% of realtors will never do video. They've just said, I'm not doing it, which is an advantage, because that means you're getting rid of 92% of your competition for those that are, willing to jump into video. But kind of a different tack here real quickly.
Yeah.
So we're creating some audience, we're building some authority, and ultimately we're trying to not push people, but engage people in a funnel to get them offline. That funnel, I'm assuming, is when they're coming over to your website and filling out a form. And these are pages on your website you've built out, landing pages that have the funnel on them, correct?
That's correct. Yeah. And
how important is that strategy on your webpage? I mean, getting that dialed in, it's got to be super important, right?
Super important, because again, you don't want to fill your funnel with the wrong clients. And I see a lot of people doing that. They want a high level client, but they're selling a $14 widget. Right. My clients bypass that $14 widget. That $14 widget is not going to help them solve their problems. They got bigger problems, and they're only going to cut bigger paychecks to make those things go away. Right. So I see that being one of the bigger problems when people are building out their funnels, is they're not taking their clients into consideration, and they're doing what their competition's doing, or think that's the right strategy because that's what everybody else is doing. And they're getting murdered.
Yeah.
So you really have to think backwards and say, okay, what's the big pain point that my client has? How do I speak to that? And how do they want to consume that information? And so I've been studying my audience for years, and every client that graduates my program, I have an exit interview with them. And I ask them, what did you love about the program? What needs work?
Yeah.
And when they give me these answers, I note them and I study them. And I have a swipe file on Google of my clients' pains and my clients' wants.
Yeah.
So I have content for days now to speak to all of that. I also go to client I go to competitor testimonies. Right. I go to competitor testimonies, especially video.
Yeah.
And I listen to how that testimony speaks. I listen to the words they use and the language they use, and I hear where they were struggling, and I hear where that competitor helped them. And that gets all weaved into my marketing. And I use their language. So words like spinning my wheels for, right, working inside of my business instead of on it. All of those types of language I use in my content because they're like, Henry gets it. Right. You know, he knows. So in your world, what are some of the language that's used when it comes to pain points that a seller or buyer is struggling with?
Yeah, I think like today with a buyer, highly specifically would be, competing with multiple offer situations, escalating prices, making sure you're not overpaying for a house. Those are all going to be super big pain points. And, I think those are all hot topics on our industry. On the seller side, it's all about, whether they can find replacement housing, frankly. So people are afraid to put their house on the market because they don't know if they're going to be able to find the next house, right, for them to purchase. And so that's a big issue with us. And so it creates kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy. But I could see where people could build out funnels around those topics. And that's really an exciting concept to me, what you're talking about. I think it's brilliant.
Yeah. Think about it, Jim. You could say something along the lines of, scared to sell your house because you're afraid you're not going to find another one. Well, take this assessment, right, and see where or here's my guide, right, and it doesn't have to be an ebook. It doesn't need to be that, right? It could be you, Jim, in front of the camera, like you and I are talking right now, right? And say, here. And all you have to do is send them this video on that other. So they give you their name and email, and on the next page, let's just say there's a YouTube link, or the video's right there embedded on the page.
Yeah, exactly.
And then underneath that video, there's a button that says, "Hey, if you need more help, click here, fill out this questionnaire. I want to make sure we're a good fit." And then right? There's your funnel.
Yeah. So it's very interesting because some people listening to this are going to say, these are fantastic ideas. I'm a little afraid of the learning curve on the tech. So this is where we get a lot of pushback from realtors is, I'd love to do this, but that's the but, right?
Yeah.
How do you, when you're coaching people, I'm sure you get the same kind of pushback. How do you overcome that? What do you say to them?
Okay. So I'll speak to my clients first. I'll speak to my clients for as if I'm speaking to a client first, and then I'll give you the other answer.
Yeah.
So I just read this amazing book. It's called Who Not How. Are you familiar with it?
I've heard of it. Yeah.
Okay. So, when you're starting your business, you are trying to figure out how to do everything.
Right.
And that could be extremely overwhelming, especially when you get to the tech side of things. Right? The other way to look at your business, and I wish I learned this sooner. Okay. For all you, business owners out there that are just starting out, or realtors that are just starting out. The other way to look at it when you're starting out is asking yourself, who can help me get this done? And having a focus on who you can bring to you to help you make your problem go away. So we had an issue. I have a 4-year-old son. He's going to be 4 in the next month. He took a wad of toilet paper one day, almost half a roll, flushed it down the toilet.
Oh no.
And it was pretty gross.
Right.
I could have went up there and tried to unclog the toilet. Jim, between me, you, and your audience, if I would have done that, my upstairs would have been a cesspool.
Right.
Instead, I called my plumber.
Right.
And for $1, now my wife tried a couple of the remedies, home remedies, not happening, wasn't working. It was that hard of a clog. So called the guy up, came here, took him 7.5 minutes, if that. I said, how much do I owe you? He says, 150. Fine. Here you go.
Who cares? Right.
Right.
Yeah.
It's right. It took 7 minutes It was $150. It is what it is. That's a house call these days.
Yeah.
Right. It is what it is. But I paid him $1.50 to get rid of the problem in 7 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
That's valuable to me.
Right.
So finding your who's.
I love it.
Are huge. Right.
Yeah.
So I have a who for everything.
Mm-hmm.
I have a who for business strategy.
Mm-hmm.
I have a who for, I don't design anymore. I don't build funnels personally anymore. I spent 6 years doing it hands-on, right? I don't do it anymore. Now I have a funnel team. I have a design team. I have a project management team. I have an admin team. I have a podcast production company that handles all of that. I just sit here, record, have a great, have a great conversation and ship it off. Right. So if you're in the, if you're in the position to do that, I highly recommend you do it.
I think that's great. I had the same experience. I've done a lot of writing, and my biggest challenge was actually getting some of that editing done on the back end. So I finally broke down. I just hired a copywriter, and man, I just sent it to him and it's gone. It's done. It's done. It's done. It's done. And so it's so much in the amount of relief you feel by not having to manage that stuff. I mean, it's so worth it. We got to go lean into our strengths, I think, is always what we should be doing, and our passions. Like you're saying, you're passionate about talking and speaking and helping people. If we're not passionate about something, we just won't do it. Right.
Right. Well, and think about this way too. Like let's say we focus on our weaknesses and try to get better. Yeah. At the end of our lives, we'll just have a bunch of strong weaknesses.
that we hate.
Right. So, but life's too short. Life is too short for that. Yeah. You know, I say, let me get to the end of the road and look back and say, wow, I really spent my time wisely being the best human I could be, doing the best things that I loved to do.
Yes.
And that's life. You know, I'm teaching my son at a very young age to focus on what he loves to do and delegate the rest. And he's going to learn very quickly. Like, we can mow our own lawn, but how much time is your time worth, right? To do that. I can mow my own lawn, but let's say I'm $2,500 an hour. It's not worth it to me.
No.
Just bring in the landscaper guy, pay him the $60 or $70. Now I can be on a call making $2,500 in that hour instead.
Absolutely. So we should be in our highest and best use, right? And whatever that happens, if it's, that's why the surgeon is not answering the phone, right? He's in surgery, highest and best use, right?
It's a great point. So stay in your area of greatness as best you can and hire and delegate out the rest. So don't even bother with the tech stuff.
Right.
Just have somebody come in and do it. Now,
jump into it.
On the flip side, you're a do-it-yourselfer. You got to figure it out. You got to do it.
Yeah.
So there's a couple things you could do. It's still going to cost you time. It's still going to cost you time. So what's more important to you, time or money?
Yeah.
All right. What's more valuable? Right. And I'll just say that. So there is tools to do all of this stuff, and it's just getting easier and easier the way tech is just exploding and evolving every day, So there's 1,000 ways to do it, but if you had to ask me personally, that's my way, is to find your who's, stop worrying about the how, and get it done and get it done right. So, and that's it. And that's it.
Yeah. And I think what's interesting when you're saying some people are bootstrapping up and there's value. You did the coding for 6 years and now you're at the funnel building. And sometimes we have to bootstrap up. But one thing I always tell agents is this, that, I'm so old, 32 years in this business, that I remember pre-internet days, how we sold real estate. And then the internet came along and we all had to learn email. And every old agent said, I can't learn email. Guess what? You learned it. You figured it out, right? All of us have adapted. Like Zoom is another a good example. I mean, 85, 90% of the population did not use Zoom prior to to COVID. Now, almost everybody knows how to use Zoom, right? So it's not that we can't learn it. It's that we just got to invest ourselves into doing what we have to do to be successful. And then when we can pivot, I love the who's. I think that's great.
Yeah, I think that's the best way. But yeah, I think if you're just starting out, yeah, you're going to have to get your feet dirty and your hands dirty and, you know, get through that process as quickly as possible.
Right. So let me, we're kind of running out of time here. I know your time is valuable, but I just want to ask you a couple of questions on audience growth in general. What do you have is there a goal set for you, for your clients? And you say, hey, I would really like to grow you to X number so that we can get some traction here. Is there a number? Is there a magic number to that? Is it 10,000? Is it 5,000? What do those numbers look like?
Well, Instagram has a feature that unlocks after 10,000 followers, where in your Instagram story, you can insert a link and have people swipe up and it directs them right to the URL that you assign it.
Wow.
Big deal. That's a big deal because stories get a lot of viewership, actually more viewership than an actual post, because Instagram wants you to use the story function a lot, right? So
10,000 is a good goal for
it's a good goal. It's a good goal. And that's going to allow you to, again, unlock some features on Instagram that's going to allow that. Now, looking at other platforms, I would say stay away from the vanity metrics as much as possible and focus on being of value to the people that you truly want to serve.
Quality. Yeah.
The numbers will grow. Like my YouTube channel doesn't have a lot of subscribers. I think we're just shy of 3,000. And I've been working on that sucker for 2-3 years now. Right. There's over 1,000 videos, I think. Right. But I still haven't cracked the 3,000 subscribers.
Yeah.
I don't care. I don't care. I'm using the platform as an educational platform.
Yeah.
And now that Google bought YouTube a while back, all those videos are indexed on Google now. So if you type in Henry Kaminski Jr. or the brand doctor, hundreds of YouTube videos are going to show up.
Yeah. Huge, powerful. Right.
So I'm not too worried about the vanity metrics. I'm worried about, because you can have 152,000 followers like me on Instagram and make no money.
Yeah. No money at all.
Right. Yeah. And so I'm not about the numbers. I'm about the quality followers.
Got it.
You can have 100 followers, and if they're all buyers, you'll be busy for a while, believe me.
What about your posting schedule? Are you recommending a post a day? Is there a theory behind that?
Yeah. The more top of mind and in front of your audience you could be, in my opinion, the better.
Sure.
And the more engaging you can be, the better, because you're always going to show up in their feed. They're always, you know, how many times I've gotten clients off of my personal Facebook page because when I live stream, I drop that video on that thing. So I'll give you a quick example. I had a client last year, been in business 6 years. He's a $5 million business. We were in a mastermind group together a couple of years ago, lost touch. I start posting about rebranding. When's the right time to rebrand? He sees the video out of nowhere. He hits me up on Messenger. Dude, I have this landing page that I call my website. I haven't touched it in 3-4 years. It's so out of whack and out of date. I never really experienced the professional rebrand process before. We need to get it done. I get on a call with him on Monday. I sit down with him. I understand what he wants to do. He wants to double his revenues the next year, which he's in line to do. And I said, well, looking at what you got going on right now, you know, you're looking at like, this is a big overhaul for you. We're talking like 60 grand here to get this done. He goes, that's a drop in the bucket compared to what I'm going to get out of this.
Sure.
From a confidence and clarity standpoint. From one video on Facebook.
Wow.
Right. And the consistency of me being online.
Right.
$60,000 client over a weekend.
Wow.
I'll give you another realtor example. Had a realtor friend who, let's use another example. I have a cousin who is in the mortgage business. right? And he has his license as well.
Sure.
He's got a great personality. He comes on Facebook once a week and he goes live and he gets hundreds of comments and viewers.
Wow.
Yeah. Because he knows how to talk to his audience, and he's animated like me. So he has a little bit of an advantage there. And he's kind of easy to look at too. So all the women love tuning into him.
Yeah.
But he goes on and he tells stories. Listen, I'm working on this project right now, and these are some of the mistakes that I'm seeing.
Mm-hmm.
This is what to avoid, blah, blah. And he's just so real about it.
Mm-hmm.
And he does it once a week. So for your audience, again, if you're starting out once a week, get comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
Then up the frequency. I am online streaming once a day. Saturday and Sundays I'm off, but I am on social media every single day, but live streaming every day.
And when you're live streaming, are you a consistent schedule every day? It's at this time, or is it just whenever you can get on?
I have frames because, again, like I would do a live stream today at 1, but you and I are talking at 1. So I'm going to go 2:30. So, you have to think about your audience and when they're most on, right? So I'm probably not going to get as much viewership today because it's later in the afternoon on a Friday. And I think people have better things to do than to tune into a 30-minute live stream or not. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But find that consistency and try to stick to it. I will say a consistent time is like knowing when your favorite show is coming on. Imagine your favorite show on NBC kept coming on in different times. How pissed would you be?
It'd be irritating, right?
Right. So try to find that time, and if it fluctuates within 30 minutes or so or an hour, don't get all bent out of shape, but make sure you find that time that's consistent, because I get you. I could promise you this. They'll start putting it on their calendars.
You'll start converting. You'll start getting more viewers. Yeah.
Yeah. Viewers will start putting it on their calendars as reminders. That's when you know you're doing a good job.
I love it. Man, you've dropped a ton of just really great information on our audience. I've learned a lot. Man, thank you so much, Henry, for coming on and sharing your wisdom and amazing stuff. Where can people, touch you, learn more about you, and kind of keep soaking it up?
Yeah. So I'll give you a quick, simple website. So it's unique, UNIQUE, designs, DESIGNZ at the end, not an S, .net. When you get there, you're going to get access to all my podcasts because they're right on the homepage. You're also going to get access to a free masterclass. And this masterclass is going to kind of teach you a systemized way to get a better understanding of who it is that you want to serve, how to build out and optimize a simple funnel, one very similar to what we just discussed today, and then really convert those clients, those audience members into paying clients. And I'm going to give you some case studies. I'm going to show you how we've done it for our clients and how our clients are going on to do it for their clients. So you can find that right there on the homepage of my website. And again, it's Unique Designs with a Z at the end, not an S, .net.
Love it. Thank you so much. Thank you for being on the program and sharing all your wisdom, and look forward to having you on the program again at some time in the future.
Thanks a lot, Jim.
Thank you so much.